You've heard it said that the primary goal of holding an open house is to pick up buyers, but we're here to tell you the real story. This is the real story, the coaching edition with Adam and Sherry. I'm Adam Hamalian.
And I'm Sherry Hutchens.
We're two broker associates with 40 years of experience sharing our wisdom and stories with new agents trying to develop their careers. Hey, Sherry.
Hey, Adam, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. We're here to talk about my favorite subject today.
That's a little sarcastic, I think.
Okay, let's talk about something else then.
All right. It's been a hot minute since we've done one of our coaching editions, and
That is true.
I totally flubbed the intro. So we've probably edited out all the flubs, but it's just a reminder that our daytime job is actually helping clients buy and sell houses, and getting to work with new agents is a great blessing and a bonus for us. So we apologize for the little hiatus.
Yeah, that is true. We've been super busy with work, closing deals right and left, which is wonderful. But very busy with the people that we're mentoring as well.
Yeah. We just did an episode for our regular podcast about open houses for what buyers and sellers can expect. And so we thought we would actually do a coaching edition one to talk about what should a goal be for an agent when they're holding an open house and
Hmm.
how to be successful in doing that. We might even talk a little bit about personal safety somewhere along the lines.
Yeah,
Um, but I got the impression that maybe doing open houses isn't your favorite part of being a real estate agent.
it is not my favorite part of being a real estate agent. I'm never really cared for them for the entire time I've been in the business. I'd rather do anything else.
All
So,
right.
how about you? What do you think about open houses?
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about it.
Yeah.
I think if I'm missing out on something in my family life, so I can go do an open house, that's a little bit hard to get motivated about. But I do think it's an important part of our business, and both in serving our clients, but also potentially making new connections with people. And so we're going to
Hmm.
talk a little bit about that dynamic. Our teaser was that the you've heard it that the primary goal is to pick up buyers. And I actually kind of feel like that's an offensive statement a little bit.
Like they're just sitting out there waiting to be picked up, right?
Like you're going to the singles bar, and everybody knows the winks and the shakes about whether you're available or whatever else, and it kind of
Yeah.
demeans the whole process rather than honor buyers and sellers who are out there looking for a new home or to try and sell their home and establish trusted relationships. It makes it feel like
Hmm.
we're a, a salesperson, which I guess we are, but not that kind of salesperson.
Well, let's start at the beginning and I mean, at the very basics, what is an open house?
Yeah. So open house is an opportunity for a house that's for sale to be open to the public to come and view that home. And the people that come can be a whole range of people from serious buyers to looky-loos that are just out for a walk and see your sign, or neighbors. Sometimes people refer to them as nosy neighbors. That's a really offensive thing also, that they're
I
just
agree.
neighbors
Yeah.
that potentially might be future clients. If they like how you're selling this house, they might invite you to sell their house. And so we have to be really careful about the language you use around the people that come to our open houses. So it's just really it's open for anyone, for assuming non-nefarious reasons, and we'll come back to the nefarious
All right.
reasons a little bit later.
So it used to be that open houses, I think, were only on Sundays, but now we see them on other days of the week, not just weekend, right?
That's true. I feel like during, I don't know whether it was during the pre-COVID days, but after the recession, when we were having the market was yet to fully get going again, that sellers and listing agents were having to work really hard to get a house sold. And during the recession, things were so wonky. It was like didn't even do open houses because there was so much glut of inventory that open houses were almost a waste of time. You couldn't get anyone to come. But as we came out of that and people began to actually be shopping for homes again, we started doing list open houses on both Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
And some agents have a very specific routine, especially when it was a market where it was a seller's market and potentially having preset offer dates, that the strategy was to be open 2 weekends and then accept offers. And in order to help support your claim that you had fully marketed the home or exposed it to the market, rather, having it open not just 2 weekends, but Saturday and Sunday, both weekends, so that you were
Hmm.
pretty confident and that your seller could be pretty confident that a good number of people who were interested in the house had a chance to see it.
Hmm. So the real purpose then is to let's say Sunday 1 to 4 o'clock, right? In the afternoon. You've gone to church in the morning, you've gone maybe out to brunch, you know, or met a friend for lunch, and then you go put your signs out and you open the door at 1 o'clock. And what happens then?
Well, first of all, I think that your real reason for not wanting to do open houses is you don't want to go put those signs out. It is it is absolutely it may not be the least sexy thing that a real estate agent does, but it's pretty close up there because
It is not fun.
you have dressed yourself up. You are, metaphorically wearing your Sunday best or whatever it
Yep.
is. I mean, I don't think that you wear heels, but sometimes I've seen other agents wear heels that are not necessarily for athletic maneuvers. I wear dress shoes also, and I'll
Yep.
be wearing a shirt like this. Sometimes I'll even have a sport coat. And there
Yeah.
you are trying to juggle these open house signs to put them in a place that they can be seen, but isn't blocking traffic or blocking pedestrian crossings
Right.
or
Or on
violating
somebody's lawn.
or in someone's lawn or violating any local municipality rules, which you should check. And it's not very sexy. And like you're waiting for the stoplight and everybody sees you because the only reason why somebody dressed like that is standing at the stoplight when there's a is to go get their open house sign on the other side. It is
That's right.
I
And
wouldn't
you're
say I was
and you're
embarrassed by it, but it's also just it just is.
I'm jealous of the agents who have husbands who put their signs out for them.
I don't have a husband that puts my sign out.
No, you don't. Although you're not my husband, but sometimes you do put my signs out for me, or
Yeah,
you pick them up for me, and I'm
little bit
grateful for
of
that.
yeah, a little bit like a work spouse. I'll accept that.
That's right. And then you've got to dodge the cars because you're probably double parked or sitting in a red zone or something, and you've got to leave your car running. I usually leave my car running, but I take my keys with me and, I grab the signs and get them put and hope that nobody honks at you because you're parked or blocking their lane or, about to get hit or something like that. Yeah, it is the least. Oh, and what about when it's 105 out
Yeah, yeah. And
or pouring rain?
well, pouring rain, I might not put so many signs up. But the
That's
the
true.
other thing is that maybe that's a major intersection and there's already two or three signs at that intersection, and you're trying to
Yeah.
figure out where to put my sign where my sign can be seen, but
Yeah.
also not blocking somebody else's sign because if they come back and see that you put yours right in front of theirs, that them's is fighting words. And
Oh, yeah.
you're trying to be polite and we all work together because it only takes one bad incident for the city to say, no longer are we going to allow that. Do you remember that when we did that listing in Livermore,
Yep.
um,
Yes.
that
We're in broker's tour.
and the city had a rule that you could not put open house signs, the little A-frames out at corners, and so the first group said, "You're not from here, are you?" I was like, "Well, how could you tell? Because you put signs out, and that's illegal in our town."
Oh my gosh, that's ridiculous. But yes, that is a true story.
Yeah.
One time I was about to put signs out on Stanley in Lafayette, and there was another agent who shall remain unnamed who was putting their signs out. And before they put their signs out, because I was still looking for a place to park, he kicked over the two other signs that other agents had already put up and then put his up and got in the car and drove off.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like, okay.
Okay, when we're not on the air, you're gonna have to tell me who that is. All right.
Okay, all right.
Um, so you get your signs out, you get back to the house. So potentially, some cities have limits, so maybe 4 to 6 signs.
Yeah,
They typically have a rule that says the closest nearest intersection. So you can't be directing, starting at 680 all the way out to North Gate to do something in
no, that would be horrible.
Val.
Anyway,
Yeah, no, it's just a couple streets away, just from the major thoroughfares, and that should be able to get people there. And you can put strips of paper that have the address or 1 to 4. Some agents will put their signs out earlier in the day, and if you're going to be that agent, make sure you put a time frame on it so that people know when they can go. Because if they see the sign up, they might just go and start opening the door. That has happened. So if you're going to not do it just straight around your time frame, put the time that it's open. And
We could have a whole podcast just about signs.
Yes. And then we could talk about having signs that are readable and a phone number and a
Or
QR
how
code.
or how about a sign that's in the right place? I there was a sign one time in Lafayette for broker's tour that I guess was not in the right place because I walked into the neighbor's house instead of into the house that was being held open. And I walked in, closed the door, and the neighbor was sitting in her chair and she had her newspaper up. It tells you how long ago. And she didn't even put it down. She goes, "You're in the wrong house."
You think she'd get up
And
and lock her door?
I know, right? And it's like the sign was pointing to her door.
My gosh.
Anyway, okay, your signs are out. You're in the right house.
All right. Well, while we're talking about it, listen, when your open house is over, pick up your signs.
Yes.
Sometimes if you're doing it Saturday and Sunday, you'll see agents leave them out overnight. I don't think that's a great idea. They can disappear, they can upset people, but it happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
You should judge your own market space to see what's allowable. Um,
People don't like signs. I had somebody pick up all the signs that I had put out one time. And we found him in a trash can a couple days later. He had not just mine, he had picked up a couple other agent signs. He just didn't like signs on Sunday afternoon. So anyway, pick your signs up.
yeah. Um, all right, so you get back to the house. So presumably you
Yep.
got all your signs out, get back to the house,
Yep.
and now you want to make the house feel welcoming for people. So
Yes.
one of the first things you're going to do, let's just start for right now, assuming we're talking about a vacant house that's been staged. We'll do an
Okay.
owner-occupied part of the conversation a little bit.
Okay.
So you're going to go around and you're going to turn all the lights on. Potentially, you're going to unlock some doors, not necessarily all of them, but like a slider to the outside so that if somebody
Yeah.
tries it, it's easy. They don't have to fumble it. A door
Yep.
from the house into the garage, make sure that's unlocked. I
Yeah.
wouldn't necessarily unlock the outside garage door, although that'll probably happen when people are looking around,
Yeah.
because you don't want people coming in doors that you can't see.
Right.
Some agents will even bake cookies, both to serve them, but also just to have the smell of cooking, baking cookies in the house that just feels delicious. It kind of creates the atmosphere. Have you ever done that?
I did it for Broker's Tour once, not too long ago, one of our listings actually on Wimbledon Road in Walnut
Hmm.
Creek. And I don't know what possessed me because I mean, I think that people think you're baking cookies to cover up some weird smell, and there was no weird smell in that house. I just felt like baking cookies. And so I did. But as a rule, no, I don't. Because you're so busy, you don't have time to, next thing you know, you're burning cookies instead of making the house smell good.
Yeah.
I don't know. Have you ever done that?
No, I haven't. I think maybe I did. I take it back. Like first couple open
I-
houses.
In the early days.
Very early days. And then what I discovered is that I didn't want to schlep all that baking stuff around.
Right.
And so then I saw somebody else do the cookies in a tube. And I'm like, that's so like why bother? But I
You mean
did,
the cookies in a tube that you slice and bake, that kind of
yeah.
tube?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
I think
That's
it's like a
almost cheating.
Pillsbury. Yeah, but you still get the smell, like if that's your goal.
That's
Um,
true. Yeah, but you're married to a baker. She would be horrified if she
yeah,
were doing
well,
cookies in a tube.
exactly. So she did help me. My very first house that was an open house, not the condo, which was a short closure, which technically was the first one, but that's a whole other story.
That's a
Um,
different podcast.
yeah, I baked brownies and lemon
Oh,
bars with powdered sugar. Boy, that was a mistake. Um, because gooey chocolate fingertips and I had to clean up. It was like, fortunately, that there weren't any fingerprints of the chocolate on furniture, but because it was owner occupied. But I definitely had to do a little cleanup,
how
crumbs
about powdered sugar
and
everywhere?
powdered sugar. Yeah, it was not good. I would never did that again.
So you had to clean, which makes me think of that famous scene in American Beauty where Annette Bening is an agent and she's getting ready for her open house. You want to talk
Yes,
about that?
sure, why
Have you
not?
ever done that?
Yeah. No, because for those of you who don't know this scene, and we're not necessarily recommending American Beauty, it's a little bit creepy movie to begin with, and even more after we know more about the starring actor in that. Annette Bening is a realtor, and she gets to this house, and she's going to prep cleaning the house just before she holds it open, which is really not how we end up doing it. But
No.
she wants to keep her dress. I said that she dressed up, right? She wanted to keep her dress nice. So she gets down to her slip, which of course is not that revealing for the movie, and proceeds to clean the house, like windows and the stove and vacuuming.
Vacuum.
And she's got the mantra. What's her mantra that she's telling herself, Sherry?
I'm going to sell this house today. I'm going to sell this house today. I think that's what it is.
It is. And then right
Yes.
before she's ready to open it up, she obviously gets herself back together and flings the door open with all the confidence in the world, like as if
Yep.
she was a ninja.
Yep. The real estate ninja. It
Absolutely.
is a great scene. I saw that movie before I was in real estate, and I thought, really? Am I going to have to do that? Once I got into the business, it's like I remembered, oh, yeah, I'm not stripping down to my underwear and cleaning the house before I hold it open. And luckily, we don't have to do that. But again,
I did not know that was even up for discussion, but
it
okay.
is not up for discussion. But anyway, so lemon bars and brownies, and you had
For
to
the
clean up
record, we normally hire professional cleaners to clean the house.
99% of the time, and they wear all their clothes, I'm sure.
Yeah. But I will say that there have been homes where we've needed to spruce them up a little bit. So oftentimes, depending on the time of the year, we might bring a broom and sweep off the front walkway.
Yeah.
And if it's an owner-occupied house, most owners are very good and follow our direction about prepping their house. But sometimes we have to put some dishes from the sink in the dishwasher and rinse the sink out and wipe down the counters and you know. Um, Okay, here's one of my pet peeves. I don't know how it happens, and this is maybe evidence that actually there are ghosts, but um, toilet seats miraculously being up.
Yes. When there's nobody living in the house and nobody who's supposed to live in the house, and all of a sudden all the toilet seats are up.
I don't understand. It's
Yeah, I don't either.
all right.
I encountered one yesterday.
So, in the process of we're going to make the house welcoming, we're turning on lights, opening blinds. If you want to bake cookies, you can do that. We don't typically recommend, I don't recommend doing packaged food. Some people will do that. I don't think there's a need to give people snack food for the day. Sometimes we'll do bottled water if it's a hot day.
Yeah.
You'll see some agents do personalized bottled water. I would not do that because the last thing I want is my name on a piece of trash in the gutter where that person leaves it. Just saying.
Well, there's an agent in Pleasant Hill who does a full spread of lunch.
Yeah.
Sandwiches, potato chips, cookies, water, drinks, the whole nine
But I
yards.
will say about that, and for some agents that do, like there's a agent in our office who, for brokers tour in particular, but she might do it for regular open houses, uh, cooks a little chili
Yes.
and in a cup and a spoon, right? So if it gets somebody to stay in the house a little bit longer and dwell there, and especially if it's going to allow you to have conversation with them, it can be really a resourceful thing to do.
Yeah.
But it's like a bonus, advanced citizenship. If you're just starting
Yeah.
out, I wouldn't start with that because you're going to be worrying about cooking.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't waste money on the packaged food.
I used to do that all the time when I was a new agent. I catered my own broker's tour. And then I switched over at one point to buying sandwiches or, something from a restaurant to serve if I didn't have time to actually cook for it. And that was nice, but we don't get as many people on broker's tour as we used to. So a lot of times that food goes to waste. But
Yeah.
that's a great idea if you live in an area where you get, 50 or 60 agents coming through on a Tuesday morning. So.
You're going to feed 50 or 60 agents?
Well, you've been to tours in Lafayette before.
Yeah.
They tour.
Not as much as they used to, not like
No, it
pre-pandemic.
depends on the house. It depends on the house. I had an open house one time where I had about 500 groups of people over 2 days. It
Wow.
was a madhouse. Thank goodness I had another agent with me because just crowd control, in the house, in a little tiny two-bedroom, one-bath house, which you actually know the house we're talking about on Warren. Um, and we had a traffic jam out front. It was a lot of people. It was a
Yeah.
lot of people.
No
So
parking on that street either.
no parking on that street, no. But yeah, anyway, I don't recommend doing that. I probably half of the deck had fallen down into Las Trampas Creek, and I shouldn't have had that many people in on that deck in the first place.
That scares
So,
the
but
heebie-jeebies out of me.
yeah, I mean, it wasn't, I don't know that I represented the seller in the best way I could, which is the whole purpose of an open house, right?
Well, that was going to be my next question. All right. So you've got the stage set, you've opened the
Yep.
house, you got the signs out, you got the lights on. And what is your goal for the open house? Your primary goal, not necessarily everything, but what's your primary goal for an open house?
Well, your primary goal is to show it off to as many people as possible and answer questions and expose it to, well, let me back up and take out that word expose. Show it to as many people as possible, answer people's questions, and represent the seller. You are there to represent the seller.
So you paused for a moment and said expose. And was that a reference to Annette Metting in her slip? Okay, never mind. Keep moving on. All right.
Maybe.
So you're representing the seller and trying to sell the house to buyers as they come
Yeah.
in.
Yes. And the first open house I did, the agent who met me there to teach me how to do an open house said, "Here are the flyers, and you should pick up 3 buyers today." All right, take care. Bye. And that's not what you're there for. You are not there to pick up buyers. If you pick up a buyer, great. But you are there to represent the seller and sell the house.
Yeah.
You want to
So
elaborate on that?
sure. I just want to acknowledge as we mentioned earlier, I hate the term pick up the buyer. Um, but so right, so you have a signed, if you're the listing agent, you're holding it open, you have a signed
Hmm.
listing agreement with your client, the seller, and you have said, I'm going to represent your best interest. And so their best interest is you focusing on trying to sell that house, and which means that you need to know that house inside and out, be able to answer any questions that might be relevant, including but not
Hmm.
limited to what's in the disclosure package.
Hmm.
Obviously, if you were working with the seller, you probably have already read a home inspection. Not every seller does it, but if there is a home inspection and a pest inspection and the seller
Hmm.
disclosures, the things they've said about the house, what's been remodeled, how recently it's been painted, how old is the roof, what do you
Yeah.
know about the HVAC system, yada, yada,
Yeah.
yada. I said the best part. What about the roof?
The yada,
Um,
yada, yada.
um, and know about the neighborhood, know about comparable sales recently. And this gets a little delicate because you don't want to necessarily say, "Oh, did you see the house 3 blocks over? It's
Hmm.
amazing." You got to be careful not to talk about other houses better than you talk about that one, but you need to know what is out there by comparison. So
Yes.
that you know what your property's strengths are, so
Yep.
that you could highlight them.
Yep.
You need to know what school district that house is zoned for, though this is one of those really careful CYA types of conversations. Because you can't guarantee, because there's other factors involved with schools as far as from year to year, different schools being impacted and budgets and things change. You don't want to represent, if you buy this house, for sure you'll go to this elementary, this middle, and this high school, because
Right.
that's beyond your ability to guarantee it. So you want to say it in a way that it's zoned for these, but you should check with the school district or whatever
Yeah.
else.
Yep. Yep. Just to be safe. Absolutely.
All right. So let's say you're not the listing agent and you're holding the house open
Mhm.
for the listing agent. What are your fiduciary responsibilities?
They're the same as if you are the listing agent. You're there to represent the best interests of the seller. And I think many agents hold houses open for other agents, hoping that they'll pick up a buyer I know you hate that term, and be able to write an offer on that house, or show them another house and write an offer on that house. But really, they have a fiduciary duty to the seller, just like a listing agent does.
The listing agreements are technically signed with a broker, and if you're both working for that broker, then you absolutely have a fiduciary responsibility to that seller.
Yeah.
There is a little bit of practice, though it's generally frowned upon by most lawyers and risk managers, of holding a house open for an agent from a different brokerage, and in which case you actually don't have a fiduciary responsibility to that seller. And it's kind of I don't want to say it's gray area, but it's dubious because you're the if the seller is not aware that you're doing that, that could be a big problem. And so you need to show some caution there. And if you're the listing agent, check with your broker and check with your seller if that's an okay thing to do.
Our broker does not allow us to do that.
But there are other brokers that might.
There are other brokers. Yeah, I mean, and we get emails all the time when we've got a popular listing from agents outside of our brokerage asking if they can hold our houses open. So
Yeah.
we like to hold our own houses open. We don't farm them out. We take it very seriously. We're told the seller we're going to sell their house, and we do most, if not all, of the open houses if we can. Sometimes one of us, sometimes both of us, depending on how many listings we've got at the time.
So that being said, that our primary responsibility is to the seller,
Hmm.
and that you can't violate that. But it is possible to build relationships with potentially new clients. And I like
Hmm.
to phrase it that way rather than say picking up a buyer for multiple reasons. Because as you cultivate relationships, it might be a seller, it might be a buyer, it might be a neighbor who's thinking about selling their house, and they want to see
Hmm.
how you're selling their neighbor's house before
Yeah.
they invite you to interview for it.
Yeah.
So having a posture of goodwill towards everyone that comes into the open house, and having a posture I like to refer to it as cultivating trust.
Hmm.
Uh, and you cultivate trust with people that come into the house by being knowledgeable about that house, about the market, having high quality marketing materials,
Hmm.
by being open and courteous to everyone that comes in, and you don't
Yeah.
play favoritism. There's a trainer out there who has, and I think you've actually seen her teach this. I haven't, but that
I
as you're
have.
greeting people at an open house and you discover that they already have an agent, or if they're just looky-loos, then you wave them in and say next, and you greet the next person who might be
Yeah.
the somebody that potentially you can. And I have a fundamental problem with that because I think that
Yeah.
we are, as an ambassador for that house, and then also for ourselves, we need to treat everybody with the right amount of respect. Now,
Yeah.
sometimes it's clear that somebody coming in just really doesn't want to chat with you. They just want to take a look, and that's fine. But I would never be dismissive of somebody because I thought they couldn't give me something. And because that's part of why people have such a poor opinion of real estate agents, because they think that we're doing it just for our selfish gain. And if
Yeah.
you have a posture of, I'm here to serve my client, the seller first, and you show that, you're actually demonstrating your worth to everybody that's in that space and say, oh, here's
Hmm.
somebody who is trustworthy because I see that they're representing their client well. And I think
Yeah.
that goes as far of winning new relationships with people as being a used car snake oil salesman trying to
Yeah.
get business.
Well, to some degree, over the last couple of years, we have been encouraged, if not to kind of gently indicate, but come right out and say, I represent the seller to everybody who walks in the door, just to make sure that relationship is clear. I represent the seller. I am a listing agent. And I'm starting to hear people ask that question now when they come in the door. Are you the listing agent? Or are you filling in for someone who is the listing agent? Because they're starting to become more aware about, how their agency relationships work. So
Well, we are required to use that form, which is open house visitor
the
disclosure.
sign-in sheet, yeah.
Yeah, the sign-in sheet. So it used to be that we had sign-in sheets as a way to potentially get people's contact information so that we could reach out to them to follow up. Um,
Or spam them, as you always say.
well, There are some agents who used to require you to sign in, which was kind of goes against the open house ethos. It's a little bit more of a hurdle. But either way, the with the changing of the laws about of clear being really clear about who's representing who,
Yeah.
the open house advisory is designed to indicate to people who come to the open house for them to understand that you do represent the seller. And until there is a explicit, or it can happen by implied action also, but explicitly I representation. Everyone that comes to that open house should understand that your first fiduciary responsibility is to the seller as you are their agent, and that
Mhm.
until you agree to something further, they should assume that you're answering all the questions from that perspective. Obviously, you're still answering them truthfully and you're not lying, but that's what it is. And so I think that the law is, I think I should just know this absolutely, that we're required to ask everybody to sign it, but they are not required to sign it.
That is correct. I think that is correct. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if we're required to ask, but we should indicate. There's a sign-in sheet here if you'd like to sign in.
But but also not just saying there's a sign-in sheet. It's to say this is a
I represent, well, the sign-in sheet says I represent the listing
true, but
or the
nobody's
seller,
reading
doesn't it?
when you tell them to sign in, nobody's reading that.
No, and they're signing in as Mickey and Minnie Mouse, you know?
Well, that too.
Yes.
Um, the uh, yeah. There was an agent even recently who had their assistant stand at the door at an open house and wouldn't let us come in
RS, yeah.
unless we gave them our names. We're like, we're real estate agents and these are our clients. They're not giving you their
Yeah.
information. Um,
It was unbelievable. I haven't seen that person around since that time. Maybe they were a little heavy-handed. I mean, that agent's still working, but that was right after the, August 2024 changes.
yeah.
So that was kind of bizarre, but
I, and we tell our clients who go shopping without us at open houses, you don't have to sign in. If you want to put your real name and non-contact,
mhm.
that's fine. If you don't want to put a real name, you want to put a fake name, that's up to you. But you don't have to sign in.
And it's okay to say I'm working with Sherry and Adam. I have an agent.
Um,
Um, so what about people who come in and say, "Will you write an offer for me?"
that's a great question. That sounds like that would be a great day if somebody asked you to write an offer.
Yeah.
So this is not uncommon. It happens. There's a lot of people who are trying to get a deal, especially in really competitive markets.
Yeah.
And so they think that they might be able to get a deal with the seller if they assume that the agent who would dual end the transaction, and that's a whole long conversation. But for the sake of this one, we'll just stick to that. They're assuming that you'll do it for less than your full fee if they use you. The problem is, of course, that you've made a fiduciary responsibility to the seller. And Sherry and I typically, not typically, we tell our clients we don't double end transactions because we can't tell you we're representing your best interest and then go tell a buyer that we're representing their best interest.
Yeah.
It's just not compatible.
Well,
It,
they want two different things, right? The seller wants the highest possible price and the buyer wants the best possible deal. They are not compatible.
Yeah. And you essentially lose the ability to negotiate for your client, and
Yeah.
you're talk about shuttle diplomacy. You're basically taking the word of one client, taking it to the other and say, this is what they said. And then like, well, here's
Yeah.
our response. And you walk it back. And if they say, do you think they'll take it? And like, I don't know, I'm going to have to take it over there. I can't give you any advice because I'd be working against my other client.
Yeah.
So that being said, we actually maybe only for the second time, maybe the third time in the 10 years we've been partners, recently functioned as a dual agent. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, maybe 2 months ago, I was at an open house, first open house for one of our clients. They had just written an offer, a contingent on the sale of their house offer that got turned down, and they were pretty devastated that because they really wanted this house. And so I was holding it open and hoping to find a buyer, or have agents bring their clients through, somebody take an interest in it and write an offer so we could go back and write another offer on the house they wanted. And instead, what happened was a buyer came through and approached me and said, I want you to write an offer for me. And I said, I don't write offers for buyers. I represent the seller. You should go find your own agent. And he said, no, I don't know another agent. And besides, I always work with the listing agent. And I said, I can't represent you because I represent the buyer or the seller, sorry. And my goal is to, represent their best interests. And I can't do that for a buyer and seller at the same time. You really should, in order to have the best possible representation, go find your own agent. He said, no, I want you to do it. And I was thinking, oh, our clients really want to go and write an offer on this house in Brossmore. And if I can get this into contract today, I might be able to do that for them. And here's this guy begging me to represent them. And I said, let me ask the seller how they feel about it. And we ended up representing both parties.
Yeah.
It was not a comfortable spot to be in because it should have been easy. And this is what the buyer said to me. It's all cash. It's a non-contention. It's a short close. It'll be a piece of cake. It was not a piece of cake.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I think by the end, I don't think either the buyer or the seller were mad that they had done it, but I both think that they had second thoughts about whether it was a good idea. Both clients
Absolutely.
got what they wanted. The buyer got the house at a price I think he was happy with, and our
Yep.
sellers maybe got a little less than they were hoping for, but also it helped them get the house that they wanted. So at the end, they were
Yep.
happy about that.
Yeah.
Um, and so it was a lot of moving pieces there. But we, especially if you're a new agent, you should avoid doing that altogether. So if a
Yeah.
buyer comes into the open house, we highly recommend that you say, I told the seller that I'm not going to represent a buyer.
Mhm.
But if you'd like to write on this house, I can refer you to an agent. Or
Mhm.
if you'd like me to help you write on another house, I'd be happy to do that or show you other
Yeah.
houses if you're
Yeah.
interested in using me to help you buy a different one.
Yeah, that's what we typically do is we refer that buyer to another agent and let that other agent represent them. And I should have done that in this situation, but I just needed to get my client into contract on that other house. And so I did not do that. But it's best to refer them. And sometimes if you just out and out say, I'm not going to do this, they will go find another agent. So, but um,
The
yeah,
and if you refer the person out, sometimes you can get a referral fee. We'll talk
Mhm.
about referral fees another time, but just keep in mind that that is a possibility, even if you've only
Yeah,
talked to them for a few moments.
yeah.
Um, the the when you're trying to build relationships with people, we kind of touched on this earlier, but when people are coming in, um, I think that the cultivating trust is really kind of my primary lens that I think about,
Hmm.
whether they are
Yeah.
potential buyers working with another client, like that would be kind of one extreme to somebody that's unattached altogether. But I think that by representing the house well, by speaking the truth, you don't want to talk negatively about your house, but you can talk realistically. And so, for instance, yeah, we had a sewer lateral done and it looks like it needs to be replaced. There's a bit in the disclosure packet for it. Like being truthful about that represents
Yeah.
you and the client well.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily lead with a, hey, welcome to the open house. The sewer is bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if they're if they're asking,
Yeah.
be thorough and thoughtful, it represents well.
You've
Um,
got to you've got to tell the truth.
yeah, you got to tell the truth. So, do you want to? So then, as you represent yourself well, it's possible that you will build relationships with people, and they will be interested in either, hey, would you be willing to sell my house? Make sure you've
Hmm.
got information that you can hand out. Um, One of the techniques that sometimes there's a brochure box on the sign. Take all the
Hmm.
brochures out before the open house. Bring them
Yeah.
into the kitchen with you. I think a kitchen is a great place to kind of station yourself, depending on the floor plan. You want to be within eyesight of the front door,
Yeah.
but you draw people in, make them come to you, hand them a brochure or hand them your business card, shake their hand, use your name. Um, There's some questions that you can open. You should be asking open-ended questions that allows them to
Hmm.
talk. People like to be the center of their own story. So when you ask them, what is
Hmm.
it that you've been looking for? Have you been shopping for a while?
Yeah.
Have you been so? And then trying to figure out if they have an agent is important because there's ethical.
Hmm.
We all signed on to a code of ethics. If they are signed with an agent, you need to respect that. It doesn't mean you can't talk to them and be helpful, but you want to get a sense of that. So some of the ways that you can without coming right out. Because if you asked, are you working with an agent? If they are, they'll say yes, obviously. But if they're not, sometimes they'll say yes just to ward you off. So you want to work around that without being
Yeah.
too direct.
Yeah.
Because you don't want them to sniff out that the only reason why you're asking that question is to find out if they're available to work with.
Yeah.
So have you been looking for a while? Have you,
Hmm.
are you just out today? And sometimes this is our first day out. Um, so if they've been out for a while, have you written any offers? Well, if they say yes to writing an offer, then you know they have a agency agreement with somebody and
Hmm.
you can
Yep.
adjust your dialogue with them accordingly.
Yep.
Um, if they, they're looking at the house and it seems like this isn't the right house for them, it's okay to say, what is it that you're looking for?
Yeah.
Would you like me to help you find some other houses that meet your need?
Yeah.
May I have your contact info? May I send you something later?
Yeah.
Um, uh, I know that you worked with a previous partner that the two of you had a system where you would collect whoever's doing the open house would collect the people's names and addresses of potential sellers, and he
Hmm.
would text you that, and you'd put together a CMA, a comparative market
Yep.
analysis that could be delivered to
Yep.
that potential buyer to follow up or seller to follow up
Yep.
with them. Here's what your house might worth, delivering the value before you solidify any transaction.
Yeah, he had a real gift for picking up clients at open houses, and we had a good system where I would sit at my desk at the office while he was doing open houses, and he would just send me names and addresses, and I would do like a mini CMA and bind it and drop them off at the end of the open house, and then he'd go knock on doors and say, "I met you at the open house earlier. I just wanted to let you know we did a CMA for your home. Here you go." And we were very successful picking up clients that way.
So that's what a good partnership looks like. You want to tell people about our first open house together?
Sure. Yes, we did it together in the same room. Busy, busy open house. It was your listing, a listing that came from your side of the sphere. And I think you were very excited to be putting this house on the market, and it was busy. We had a lot of people coming and going. And anyway, you were answering questions, and people were asking me questions. And every time I opened my mouth to answer that question, what happened?
I would be facing the opposite direction on my laptop trying to pull disclosures up, and I would not even be facing the people, and I would start answering the question that was addressed to Sherry.
Uh-huh.
So Sherry would open her mouth, and out would come my voice.
Uh-huh.
And Sherry, how did that make you feel?
I was really annoyed.
Annoyed is a polite word here.
It's funny now. It's a story that we tell fairly often because, it was fun. It was not funny that day, but it's funny now. And you're much better at open houses than I am, so I can understand why you would want to answer questions. Plus, it was your listing, right?
I just don't think I had done a listing or an open house with anybody before. That's not true. I did one with Jim Calhoun where I was like the newbie and I was I
Uh-huh.
was just differential to Jim because he was, a 30 plus year veteran and I
Yeah.
was just happy to that I was
Yeah.
getting a chance to be in an open house with him and I was happy to, point things back to him. In this
Yes.
case, you and I were it was very at the beginning of our partnership. I'm not even sure if we had fully partnered at that point, but we were
Yeah.
definitely full discussion about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we definitely had some learning to do on how to work together. And I will say that I had some learning to do there. Um,
Well, you're like I said, you're just better at open houses and people kind of gravitate to you. You've got a very friendly manner and I don't like doing them and I think people know that I don't like doing them.
yeah,
So
I'm not 100% sure that's accurate. People love Sherry. They gravitate to her in situations more than they do to me. All right. So
next, yes.
So hopefully you've collected some names and addresses. If you have, then that evening it's a good idea to email those people or send them a text and say, hey, it was so nice meeting you today. Here's the
Yep.
thing that I told you I'd get you.
Yep.
If it's something like a CMA that you can drop off, even better. And then you could, on your own sensibility and depending on how the conversation went, follow up with them every few days or a week later,
Yeah.
sending them homes. And sometimes those relationships will pan out in a transaction and sometimes not, but they're important to have. Uh,
I think that's a hard part for the new agents. There were a couple of people that we're mentoring right now that met people at open houses over last weekend or the weekend before. And I know that what they think is, oh, I'm going to sell that person a house. And then reality sets in where they're sending emails that are either bouncing back because it's not the right email address, or they just go unanswered. Text, nobody returns texts, nobody returns calls, and all of a sudden that person is gone. That is really heartbreaking for a new agent.
there's an agent in our company who's very diligent to follow up like 7, 8, 9 times until they finally say stop. And she's very successful. So,
That is
yeah,
not my style. I would worry that they were going to get a restraining order against me at some point. That's
yeah,
too many. I can't do that.
there's, I'm, I don't say I'm conflicted. I'm divided on it because my sensibility is I don't want to bother them, but also that person has agency in the sense that if they don't want you to be sending them like listings that match what they were asking about, they can
Yeah.
say, "Hey, I'm done. That's okay. Thanks." But
Yeah.
there's you shouldn't take yourself off the board until you really need to keep
Yeah.
yourself presentable or
Yeah.
viable.
I
Um,
can usually tell when I've connected with someone and that it's going to go a little farther than the open house and maybe to a closed transaction. But I just am not the type to be a stalker agent. So
Yeah. Fortunately, we have enough business. We don't have to quite do that. But when you're a new agent,
that
you
is
probably
true.
need to be pursuing those things and
That's right.
learning how to talk about houses and things in a way that's not used car salesman is an important skill, especially in this
Yeah.
space.
Yeah. Yeah, we had an agent, a fairly new agent in one of our other offices who um, heard from the listing agent of a house that she was going to hold open that there might be a price reduction if it didn't sell this weekend. And not only did she tell everybody who walked in the door, I think we're going to do a price reduction next week, but she also went on social media and posted it. And I saw it and kind of freaked out. It's like, hello, my dear, do you have any idea what you're doing? Did nobody train you on how to do an open house? You do not say, we're probably going to do a price reduction next week. That is not representing, the best interests of the seller. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no. Yes.
Anyway.
Speaking of making sure that you represent the seller's best interest, um, when you're doing the open house and you need to be in full integrity because you never know if the seller is going to send people in to see what you're doing. I think that all sellers are curious what happens at their open houses, and
Yep.
we'll talk about that in a second about following up. But one time we had there was an out of area seller, and he had his friends come to the open house to see what we were doing. And so it was
Yeah.
one of those things. Fortunately, we operate with full integrity, and we were doing as we did, as we were discussing earlier, we represent the seller trying to sell that house so that we had nothing to be embarrassed about. But when it came back to us, it was like, really? You checked up on us? And it's
It
like
wasn't just one, as we found out, it was 19 different people he sent in
19? I
to,
didn't think it was that many.
yeah, he said 19 when he put it in a spreadsheet.
Yeah. Anyway,
That's a lot of people.
yeah.
Um,
All right, so let's talk about we've made contacts with people potentially. One of the thing, oh, another way that you can test whether somebody has an agent or not. So we talked about have you been writing offers, is we have tell the people that are viewing the home we have a full disclosure packet,
mhm,
and if you're interested, have your agent reach out to us. So you
yeah,
start with the position of respect
yeah,
and also not salesy, right? You're trying to serve that particular buyer to make sure that you want them to be successful and you're not trying
mhm.
to do something untoward. Torrid? Anyway,
Yep.
or if you don't have an agent, if you want to leave me your email address, I'll send it to you, or my contact information is on the flyer. It's
Yeah.
always better to ask for their contact information than leave it in their hands to contact you. If they're willing to give it to you, that's always
Yes.
a powerful opportunity. Because the reality is, if you leave it in their hands to contact you, it's highly unlikely they're going to.
Yeah.
We always ask, would you, if you leave your email address, I'll send it to you, or I'll even we might have our laptop open and say, just type it in here and it'll come to you. So,
Okay.
there's different ways to work that. All right. We
Yep.
come to near the end of the open house. It's
Yep.
4 o'clock. And what happens like at 3:55 on like 75% of the open houses?
Every single person who hasn't seen the house walks in the door.
Yes. So here's the other lesson is that you need to tell your loved ones the open house is 1 to 4. I'll probably be home at 5.
Yeah.
Because yes, it's like Murphy's Law that there
Yep.
is, and then sometimes people will come and just start chatting, and you're like, hey, I gotta go, and
Yep.
but you think they might be a buyer, so you keep talking with them. You gotta have your boundaries, and
Speaking of boundaries, when I was new, if the open house had ended and I had locked up and I was putting my sign that was on the front porch in my car and somebody pulled up and said, "Can I see the house?" I would unlock it and let them in. I don't do that anymore.
I don't do
If
that
they can't
anymore.
get there by 4 o'clock, they have to come another time because usually they're just out, you know, with nothing to do and want to look at a house. And I set up boundaries around that. At 4:15, I am not opening that house and turning the lights back on. If you
Yeah.
can't get there early or on time, then you're not going to see the house with me. So,
And that's really up to you. So I totally affirm and echo what Sherry said. It's totally up to you though. If you don't have plans and it's like, if it's
you
an
can do
act,
whatever you
you do
want as
whatever you
long as
want.
your seller's okay with it.
Yeah. But it's okay to have boundaries too.
Yeah.
The the there was something else I was going to say about that. So we get to the end of the open house,
Yep.
and there's a very specific routine that I have. I don't know if you have one, but I start by locking the front door so nobody. So I'm assuming the house is empty,
Yep.
and it may not be. But like that's so I lock the front door, and then I will
Yep.
go lock any sliders that are open so that nobody else can get in. And then
Yep.
I go to the farthest room from the house, from the front
Yep.
door, and make my way back. So I go as
Yep.
far into the house as there could be somebody, and I start turning out lights and checking all windows.
Make
Uh,
sure they're locked. People unlock them all the time.
yeah, in a very strange sort of way.
Yeah.
And then make my way, back towards the front door, and then I will make once I've made sure all the lights are out or how we were supposed to leave it, and the doors are locked, then I will make my way outside
Yeah.
and then go collect signs.
Yeah,
Um,
that's my routine as well. Close closet doors that have been opened, things
yeah,
like that.
and just double check. Occasionally, things happen at open houses. We didn't talk about security, but maybe this is a good time to talk about security.
And safety as well.
Yeah. So I am so one of the conversations you'll have with your sellers about open houses, if it's owner occupied, is to make sure that they don't leave anything out that somebody can easily put in a pocket and walk away with.
Yeah.
Put their jewelry away and put prescription drugs away.
Yeah.
There used to be a time when that was a big deal that people would just come grab whatever the prescription drugs were and then sort them out later if they're anything
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. Yes.
Um,
And then
and
as far as safety is concerned,
yeah.
this is how I handle an open house. I don't ever follow someone upstairs or into the back of the house. I always stay wherever I am stationed for that open house, which is usually the kitchen. And if someone says, I need to show you something upstairs, that does not happen. I do not go upstairs for a couple of reasons. One, if they're the only person in the house and they want me to come upstairs, that's a red flag. And also, I don't want to leave my being in sight of the front door to kind of monitor who's coming and going. So.
And you have other personal safety things too, right? So
Mhm.
what do you do with your purse or other
Well, I
valuables?
hide my purse somewhere in the house, usually in a kitchen cabinet or something like that, so that it doesn't get taken by mistake. or whatever reason, but I keep my car keys with me. I usually put them into my waistband in case I need to run out the door and get in my car.
Yeah.
So
And I imagine probably keeping your phone on you as well.
keep my phone in my hand all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never had anything bad happen at an open house. I've never felt threatened. But there have been enough stories, including when I was a brand new agent. I think I'd been at the company for maybe a month, and one of the older agents was holding an open house in Orinda, and somebody came in and tied her up to a chair and took her jewelry and her car keys and
Yeah.
left her tied up to the chair. So that is always stuck in my mind. It's like I don't want to be, and she didn't do anything wrong. They just, it was in a remote location in Orinda, and it was just good timing. Thank goodness somebody else came to the open house and found her, and untied her and called the police. So
There's probably some neighborhoods that it's best to have two agents.
yeah,
And sometimes if it's a big house, it's good to have two agents to try
yep,
and monitor the whole house.
yeah,
For a while, I don't know whether it's still policy, but for a while there was a lawsuit because somebody fell into a pool in San Jose at an open house and broke their leg.
yeah.
And that the lawyer for our brokerage and for a lot of brokerages said that if you were doing an open house with a house with a pool, that you had to station somebody next to the pool and say, "There is a pool. Don't fall in the pool." I felt like Kevin Bacon in Animal House. All is well as chaos happens. Like
I
whatever.
have never seen I've never seen Animal House, so I
You
don't
have
know that.
not seen Oh my gosh.
No, no, I have never seen Animal
People,
House.
she's only seen Sound of Music once. Um,
Oh my gosh, you're outing me. Do you remember
so
that time that we went to an open house to a broker's tour and I got locked in the bathroom?
oh, that was hilarious. So yes, I do remember that. You want to tell the story?
And
You want me
it
to
and
tell
it,
the story?
oh, it had four bathrooms. You can tell the rest of it.
So it was a big sprawling house that did not. It was as far from a rancher as you could get. Like the house
Oh
itself
yeah.
kind of was like a crescent, general crescent shape, and so the
Yeah.
bedrooms and the bathrooms were all in kind of weird places. And just as we had finished touring this house. This is very early in our partnership, and maybe I'm not even sure we were partners. I think we were just touring together. And you indicated you needed to use the little girl's room, so I went outside to wait, and then I get this text, and I don't know that we must not have been partners because I'm not 100% sure I had your phone, your contact in my phone, and so I got a text from you, and it said, "Help! I'm stuck in the bathroom," and I'm like, "Who is this?"
Oh, I think you knew who it was, and I think you were playing with me.
Um, and
And then you said,
I don't remember, what did I say after that?
which
Oh
bathroom?
yeah, that's right. Which
Because
bathroom?
it was a big house with like four and a half bathrooms.
That's
And I
right.
was like, and I said the one by the front door. I thought that's where I was.
It's
But the
like
sliding glass door, I mean, the slider or the pocket door was stuck and I could not get it open. And it's
I
like,
think I told you start banging on the door and I would follow the sound.
yes, you came and rescued me, thank goodness. But
And
that's a
the
good open house story.
and the rest is history. That was actually a broker's tour, right? So
Yes, it was a broker's tour.
all right. So after the open house, you go pick up your signs and you want to give your sellers an update. Say, and you
Mhm.
might, if you're doing Saturday and Sunday, you might wait till Sunday evening to do
Yeah.
it. But you'll send your sellers a update. Hey, we had X number of groups through, X number
Or
of
you
car.
call the listing agent who let you hold their house open and give
Yeah,
them an update.
right. And then like this many people asked for disclosures. So and so agent blank and blank's clients came through. They seemed really interested. Probably should reach out to
Mhm.
that person and say, hey, so and so
Yep.
came through. They seemed really
Yeah.
interested. Just want to let you know. I sent you the disclosures. Because remember your primary job is to sell the house. So you want to do
Yeah.
that.
And in
Um,
fact, as people's clients come through if they say I'm working with so and so, after they leave, I'll text them and say your client, so such and such clients just came through the house, so
yeah.
that they know that they've been looking at a home. So
And
just a nice professional courtesy.
well, it is nice professional courtesy, but it's also you representing your seller because you're trying to keep that ball for that buyer and their agent moving
Yep.
forward on that listing. You want them thinking about you and
Yep.
your listing and not just whatever houses they saw that day. So
Yep.
you're trying to move
Absolutely.
You were listening to the front of mind for that particular client and agent.
Yep. Yep. All right.
I feel like there's so many other things we could say about open houses, but this is probably a good place to wrap it up for today. Any other thoughts you
Yep.
had about open houses that you think new agents should
Uh,
know?
I think, no, I think we covered everything as far as new agents are concerned.
Yeah.
They're an important thing to do. They used to be a great way to, find clients. It's not as good of a way to find clients now, but if you can learn to love them, it's a good way to spend 3 hours on a Sunday afternoon.
It's a good way to learn and practice having real estate conversations with people because for the
Yes.
most part, everyone coming through the door is curious about that house.
Yep.
And so learning how to talk about it, learning what people resonate with, trying on phrases and sentences
Yep.
that are ways to talk about a house that uh, might help you land a client later,
Yep.
or build a relationship with somebody later. Or just if you talk about it enthusiastically, people might fall in love with that and hire you for your enthusiasm. So it's a good way to advance your knowledge and ability
Yep.
and skill set.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right. Well, as we bring our this episode to an end, we just want you to remind you that Sherry and I do real estate coaching and mentoring. And if you're at all interested in having a conversation with us about advancing your business, whether it's here locally or anywhere, we're happy to have you. Our contact information will be in the show notes. The Real Story with Adam and Sherry, the coaching edition. Uh, John Wooden was right when he said, "If you don't work, nothing will." We'll see you next time. Bye now.
Bye-bye.